What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here, back again with the Stochastic DFS channel. And today we're talking college football DFS ahead of Thursday, Week 12 showdown slate between Pittsburgh and Boston College. Before we get started, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all other content goes live. We're also brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is offering a first match deposit bonus up to $100 for new users, and they're giving you one free month of OddsShopper. That's our sports betting tool that has all sorts of resources, things that'll help you with spreads, totals, and player props, which is directly applicable to PrizePicks. Link in the video description below. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, we bring you in behind the glass, and we've just got one game to touch on. So first and foremost, Boston College, Pittsburgh. Spread is 3 points in favor of Pitt. The total's 45.5. This is the bottom of the ACC, so we have a lot of noise coming into the game. Boston College is 57th in pace. Pittsburgh is 66th. The pass rate for BC is 41.5%. Pitt is the opposite at 54.5. Starting with BC, been in a couple rough spots lately. Tom Castellanos has not made it through full games in the last two contests. I still think he's the favorite to start and play every snap, especially with this game being competitive. But just know the leash is no longer secure with him. We've seen Emmett Moorhead make appearances lately. But I still think he's the preferred signal caller. He has 806 rushing yards this year. He averages 182 through the air per game, and it's not on a lot of volume, just 26 attempts. And he's a dynamic rusher. He's at least 10 designed attempts in 4 straight games. Is Tom Castellanos. I still think he's among the top captains. I would rather play Kai Robichaud, who is expected to return from injury at the running back position. He's just coming in at a cheaper price. You're basically looking at a player with a locked-in workload. Prior to the injury, he had 21 carries at least in 3 straight games. Does have some pass game involvement. 6 targets in that span. I think Robichaud is probably your safest captain option on this team. Beyond him, Alex Broom. He's handled the change of pace workload. Came in with 9 carries in the absence of Robichaud last week. Xavier Coleman had 5. Then you saw Andre Hines and Nate Johnson with a carry apiece. Not expecting much out of those 2 players. In the receiving game, things are very dicey. They finally ruled out Ryan O'Keefe for the rest of the year, so we no longer have to wait on that news, potentially expecting him to return. But it's not like things have been consistent with Boston College in his absence. I think the most likely to lead this team in targets is still Lewis Bond. His route rate is hovered all over the place. We saw him at 94%, down to 63, up to 74, back down to 63. Still basically leading the team. Outside of that, Dino Tomlin's played a ton recently. 65, 81, 83, and 67% of routes. So he's been right there with Lewis Bond. I think these are your top 2 receivers at the moment for Boston College. They're kind of in evaluation mode, but Dino Tomlin, especially on DK, where he's barely above the min salary, 16 targets in the last 2 games. We need to look at him. But then this rotation has extended to deeper receivers. Joseph Griffin, route rates of 50 and 57%. We go down to Jaden Williams, 24% down to 10. Jaden Skeet, their freshman, 45%, 57%. So somewhat interesting there. And then they've used multiple tight ends. So George Takix is out for the year. So Jeremiah Franklin, his route rate 69% down to 57. He split time a little bit with Charlie Gordner and Reed Harris. Just players to know for deep tournaments. But I think the players you want most exposure to are Lewis Bond, Dino Tomlin, and Jaden Skeet. That's just because he is the minimum price tag on DraftKings. The Pitt side. They've been asking Narduzzi about the quarterback play. He made a poor decision to sit Phil Jurkovec for Christian Velo, who's somehow been worse. Unbelievably. There's a chance Jurkovec comes back and they split snaps 50-50. I'm probably not playing much Pittsburgh quarterback. We'll see if they name a clear starter, but I think the leash is short. You just might see a platoon here, and Jurkovec might flat out start this game. He should. He's been better than Velo. That's mainly noteworthy on FanDuel, where he's 6K. On DraftKings, both these guys are almost identical in price. Backfield, it's ebbed and flowed all season long. Sibo Flemister had the big 23-carry game. They went back directly to a 50-50 committee. In the last 2 games, Rodney Hammond has played ahead of him. He's out-carried him 25-8 in that span. I think there's a lot of noise. Daniel Carter also mixes in. I prefer using Rodney Hammond just because of the recent workload of late. He also has more targets by a slight margin. But I don't feel good about this, and I'll be mixing and matching both Flemister and Rodney Hammond, using the occasional Daniel Carter in the chance he receives some more work. In the receiving game, this is very consistent and where I want to focus my attention for Pitt. Bub Means, Kanata Mumfield, Dejon Reynolds, those are your locked-in 3 receivers. I would focus primarily on Bub Means and Kanata Mumfield. They're both averaging over 50 yards per game, whereas Reynolds comes in at 25.8. He's also lost snaps recently to Kenny Johnson, who's a really dynamic player. He gets carries in the run game. His route rate has been on the rise, and he's a really cheap option. So if you're looking for a Pitt punt, I think Kenny Johnson's probably the guy you want to get to, especially over a backfield that's really dicey. To bring up his routes, he was still behind Reynolds. Reynolds at 54%, Kenny Johnson at 43%, but it's much closer than we initially thought earlier in the year. Last thing to really mention here, Gavin Bartholomew. Think he's battling an injury. Watch his status. That gave more targets to Malcolm Epps in the past game, who's a former receiver, but still splitting time at tight end. That's not really the most intriguing situation. I'd rather find my way to the Pitt receivers. That does it for the Showdown slate. We'll be back the rest of the weekend for all the other slates. If you have a question, please leave it below, or you can reach out on Twitter at @Matt_Gajewski. Otherwise, we'll be back again soon talking more college football. Until then, good luck. We'll see you later.